of international experiences in France, Romania, and Brazil, apart from India. Mr. Ruben is skilled in identifying and capturing market opportunities, generating revenues, building brand visibility, maximizing shareholder value, and also equally effective in streamlining and strengthening existing operations. Today, we are honored, sir, to have you with us to share his knowledge on the topic, understanding e-retail and technology. We promise you, sir, that we will be the best audience and will match you with your enthusiasm. Please, over to you, sir.
So, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. So let me just share my screen like this. I will try like this. Do you see my screen now? Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like first to thank you. So I will try to pronounce. Just let me pronounce. I think it's Svagat Hey. Svagat Hey to all the IBS Hyderabad students. I would like also to thank a lot Kriti for all the support she gave me for the preparation of the webinar, for the invitation also. So I'm really happy to be with all of you. This is an honor for me, and I know all the work, and I know also that IBS Hyderabad is one of the top business school in India. So it's really a pleasure for me to be with you, and I really enjoy that moment. The webinar, what is the objective of that webinar? I will speak and share with you some idea about e-retail business. I will speak also about blockchain, robots, and technology in leadership. I hope you will enjoy the presentation, and we will have 15 minutes at the end for the Q&A. So the agenda is a short presentation about myself, very short, because I want to share all the the video and the document with you. That's something I really want to do. I will speak about your school also, about yourself, because I really want to underline the quality of you as a student of your school. That's really impressive, I would say. I have learned on see your program, and I must say that this is impressive. You can be very proud of you, honestly. I will speak also about leadership and technology, a very short survey I would like to share with you. I will speak shortly about a predictive model. One example I take here in India with Big Basket, which is a very big success, I would say, in India. Blockchain technology, I have one video. On robots, I have two videos. This is the objective. Very shortly about me, I'm living in India for 1 year and 2 months. I'm based in Delhi, Oscase Enclave. I am married, 2 children, my son Swan on 14 years and my daughter Heidi 10 years. I have 1 dog, Napoleon. Bon, it's not the most important here, but for us it is important. In progress, I am doing an executive program in MIT. So I have already started. This is really interesting. And I am fresh graduated with an MBA at Vienna University in Austria. So that's so I know what you are doing now, because I'm just I have done just the same a few months ago. I have 20 years of experience in retail, FMCG, on home building material. Actually, and I really enjoy, I'm working at Dalmia Cement Company as senior vice president. I must say that this is a very nice group, Dalmia Cement. Maybe some of you know Punit Dalmia G, the managing director. It's a very nice person, and I don't say that because it's my the owner of the company, but I really like this person. He's very deep, very human oriented, it's a, it's really a luck to be part of Dalmia from my side. I like sport, books, spend time with my family and learn in general. So what I'm doing now, what we are doing now together, it's really a pleasure for me to learn, to discuss with students, to answer your question and to learn also from you. I encourage you to get in touch with me on LinkedIn because I like to connect. And most of the time, you will see, today and maybe tomorrow also that the network is very important. So I will really enjoy to connect with you. So IBS Hyderabad, that's one of the advantage of the technology. I just have made a quick check about the time I need to go to your school. So if I'm not mistaken, I will need 26 hours by car. Not the best thing, I would say, on 2 hours, nearly 2 hours by plane. So I enjoy to be connected digitally today with you. We save some time. I get this picture from your school, your I would say top school of India. So I must say I'm really impressed by the quality of your school, and I must congratulate you to be there, because I know when I speak with some of my colleagues at work also that of course in India you have a lots of people, so it means also in a way a lots of competition, so that when you are part of such a nice school, it means that you really work hard and you deserve. So congratulations for that. Let me just start with a very short survey about digital business and innovation. So this is just one quote. Digital transformation is not about technology, it's about change. And it's not a matter of if, but a question of when and how. And you will see during all my presentation, we will have this kind of, very important, idea to accelerate the transformation and the digitalization. You will have, during my presentation, the result with 7 sections. I will make a very short introduction. What are the enablers of the digitalization, transformation? What are the barriers? Maybe that you will also, get in your professional life. And it's good, I think, for you to know what kind of barriers you will have maybe in your first years of professional life, and even after, because it's true also for me. I mean, sometimes you will have some barriers and you have to, to depass this barrier. What kind of strategy you can build to accelerate and to be, to be ready? What kind of technology we can use? What is the organization? And what kind of leader we are looking for tomorrow? I think that's something I would like to share with you. So here it's a very short, a snapshot of the respondent to that study. It was a study, with a quite large, range of persons. It means B2B business, B2C, business to consumer business, and business to government business, with all kind of industry. This study was quite large. It means company with more than 10 years of creation, new company between 3 and 10 years, very young company 1 to 3 years, on less than 1 year. So the analysis was quite large and exhaustive, I would say. Most managers agree today that digitalization transforms industry. Most of them. You see on this graph, most of the managers, they will agree. it's true in all the industry. It's true in manufacturing, electricity and gas, construction, financial, professional, technical, human health, other. I mean, if you want to escape that digitalization, honestly, it will not be easy because it's true in, I would say, all the industry. So that's the first point. The second point is there is a mixed sentiment regarding suite or replacement of bestseller. I will be very short here in that statement, but it means that if you are running, let's say, a retail industry business, like we know all of us, I would say traditional one, maybe you will have to identify in your range of product which one are the most sensible and can be replaced by digitalization and by competitors also. And I would say you can see on the left graph that there seems that to be mixed sentiment, but most of the managers, they agree that I would say 28% are of their revenue, of their main revenues, can be under threat by digital transformation. So it's not something small. It's quite, 1/3 of your revenue which are under threat. It means it's not necessarily something wrong. It just means that you have to prepare what kind of answer I can give to be in the race, I would say. 67% agree or strongly agree that their firm has a digital business model. That's really interesting, and I really request you, if it's possible, to keep that number in mind, because you will see that they agree on that, but you will see that on the preparation, there is a gap. You agree that you need to be ready for the digitalization, but you will see that in the preparation, there is something different in the answer. So here you have some of the key barriers. An example that all the respondents give. So most of them, they would say, digitalization is very costly. So I think that the initial investment cost is the main barrier, 85%. Okay. Some of them, they would say, this is a matter of culture. We are not ready. We are not, ready. So when I share with you just before, what kind of barrier you would have this kind of answer sometimes, even from your, I will not, I guess, I hope what I am sharing with you now, it's not what I feel with Dalmia. Dalmia, I'm lucky with, with the managing director, Pune, because he's really digital oriented and he's, very fast, digitalization oriented and he's technology oriented. So that's not but in some industry, and it's not only in India, in France, in Romania, I was in France, in Romania, it's the same. You will have some people that would say, no, with the culture, we are not ready. So that's something you have to, I would not say fight, but you have to prepare some argument and to say that, we don't have any choice. It's mandatory. Resistance to change also sometimes. Lack of clear strategy in the direction is also sometimes one of the answers you will have. Alors, majority is at later stage of their digital strategy journey. This is what is quite surprising, I would say, with the answer we had before, because we remember 67% of the managers, they say, yes, digitalization is mandatory, but few of them are, really ready. Most of them, they are still in the implementation phases. It means quite at the beginning of the digitalization, which is, quite, in a way, contradictory. with the initial statement. This is just, a very, I am just asking you, I am audible because, so I don't see you. So I am audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so good. Yeah, so analytics on artificial intelligence have, I guess, strategic importance for firms. And you see that, artificial intelligence is at the top of the main indicator in terms of digitalization. Big data analytics also. On, this robotics on 3D printing, this is not the most important, at least right now. This is not the most important indicator to be taken care of. Of course, you have a lot of other indicators. You have big data, e-commerce, cyber. E-commerce is one of the most important. Cybersecurity is one of the most important indicators also. Cloud computing is quite important also. And after that, you have all the rights side, which is not so important. I will just say that blockchain here is identified as a not quite important indicator, but it's really accelerating, right now. So I would say just keep in between brackets this indicator, blockchain, because it's really accelerating. So, do you agree with the statement that digitalization requires a new leadership style? Most of the managers would say yes. And I would say here, this is maybe my personal input, but it's not just, it's not just a digitalization requirement. It's also, I would say, a generation requirement. The generation, your generation, the generation millennium are very curious. You are a very good example. You are making, a top study in a very top school in India. So you will come in your industry with some, I would say, curiosity, ability also to learn by yourself, by your curiosity, by the technique that you learn during your classes. And that means that the leadership on the leaders who we have to adapt with the new generation, because you can't manage, I would say, and it's not a matter to be directive or not directive. It's just that we have to adapt with the new millennium generation. It's very important. So I would say you have two factors to take care of. One, maybe of the main important is the digitalization, and the second one is the millennium generation, the new generation. All this is, I would not, read all the content, but research suggests that 6 leadership skills are relevant in, the new environment, digital environment. VUCA means volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguity. I would say even more now with the COVID-19, and it was one of the questions, of Matani. I hope I'm not, I'm not, saying your name in a wrong way. Matani. It was one of the questions. How do you adapt in the online environment? And I think we have to be very agile, I would say, and very even more than before, human-oriented. It means to have, I would say, in all these 6 indicators, all of them are important: anticipate, interpret, align, challenge, decide, learn. But I would insist in 2 in particular. I would say learn. I think, my father, for example, and maybe it's true for some of your family also, he has done a good school, of course, in France. No. But, at this time, it was like, you have done a good school and you don't actualize your knowledge you remain, working all your life. I think it's we have to change a little. On you, maybe you will have to make some new, learning in your life, and I think it's good. So to be very learning oriented, on challenge also, challenge, reframe problems, challenge current beliefs. Don't take what we can tell you like it's the truth. No, you can also be curious, interpret the data, see if it's really like this, or if we can make a new new kind of business. So that's something really important also. So how many companies have data sitting out that they have not drawn inside? So here, you will see that a lot of the company, that's something interesting. We have a lot of data, but most of the time we don't necessarily, use the data because we don't take the time. And I think I have seen your program also. It's in your MBA program. You have this statistic data analysis applied program. So this is the kind of data you will have to analyze in your company to make some statement. For example, if you want to have some good, understanding on make some good predictions in terms of, environment, what is going on. You have this one of the model, or there is a lot of predictive model. I will not describe all of them right now, but I would say that take some time to analyze and to understand whatever is the company you are working in. What are the data that you can use in your company? Because most of the time you can maybe, make a simple predictive model. Sometimes, just a linear regression with some data that you have to understand what are the trends, what are the most important, trends that are, in your specific environment. And that's something I wanted to share also with you, because most of the time we don't use that data, but they are present. You just have to be curious a little. I wanted to share, just to illustrate my what I'm sharing with you, this case of a Big Basket case. I'm going quite fast. I hope I'm not going too fast, because I want to share also the video with you. The rhythm is correct for you now? I'm not too fast. It's okay for you?
Yes, sir, it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's fine.
So Big Basket case, I must say I'm really impressed by Big Basket. From the very beginning, I am in India. I'm in India for 1 year and 2 months. And the first time I order with Big Basket, I must say I was impressed by the quality of, this company and the way they think about the model, the digital model. But it's still retail. It's e-retail. For me, it's a very good example of e-retail business. I would say made in India, on well made, I would say. On just some very small indicator. What was the issue? Why Big Basket, came and opened that business, and it was such a great, success, because Big Basket, it's a success. So one of the answer is in the mobile. Too much time to scroll through products before. It means there was also way to order the product, but the application with the competitors were not so easy, like Big Basket has proposed his new business online model. Customer would forget what they needed, and we will see in that short presentation that Big Basket, they think about that also. How can we help the customers to avoid to forget some important, product? So the solution proposed by BigBasket was a smart basket, I would say, with did you forget or with some proposal on with a very smart use of the algorithm on the artificial intelligence. So that's one of the main differences, I would say, between BigBasket and the other companies such as Amazon on Flipkart also. Amazon is working well also. That's that's not my question. If a customer already had apples, I would say just a very basic example, grapes in his basket. You will have some indicator support with the rate that the confidence that he has to take another fruit. For example, he has grapes, he wants oranges. This is quite confident, 0.43. Grapes, he wants banana, this is quite confident. But the other way around, apple for orange, that's this level of analysis which is done by BigBasket, on which make that model so pertinent, I would say. So that's just amazing when you see the way they are building. So the conclusion is, can use association rules in order to make the user experience better at BigBasket. I would say on repeat purchase at BigBasket must be mobile friendly. That also, what I was sharing with you at the beginning, you have to, and what we are doing now, I will not go too much in detail because this is also part of what the business we are building, but we are exactly in this kind of reflection. How can we help the customers to make very easily the choice that he needs to make when he order on he has to choose a product, because in our building material, for example, when you and this is very complex because in sanitary ware, for example, or in tiles, let's say, or even in painting, there is a lot of options in terms of colors, of size of the product, material, quality, cost, also your budget as a customer. So you have to make, or to not to influence, I would say, but to help taking into consideration the historical part of the customer, the choice of the customer, the easiest possible. That's really important. So that was, the example I wanted to share with you. BigBasket. That's something I have done, but you can do that with every kind of business in India. I wanted also to share with you the blockchain technology. I have to accelerate a little now. So the blockchain technology, if you take the definition of the blockchain technology, it's a structure that stores transactional records, also known as the block, of the public in several databases, known as the chain, in a network connected through peer-to-peer mode. So I don't know for you, but for me, the definition is not so easy to understand like this. So I make it in a different way. Blockchain, sometimes referred to as distributed ledger technology, makes the history of any digital asset unalterable and transparent through the use of decentralization on cryptographic basing. In a different way, you can say also a simple analogy for understanding blockchain technology is a Google Doc. When we create a document and share it with a group of people, the document is distributed instead of copied or transferred. This creates a decentralized distribution chain that gives everyone access to the document at the same time. Of course, blockchain is not a Google Doc. That's not what I'm saying, but it's the same way to function. You can access, several persons can access at the same time to that document, so that it makes the transparency and the safety also to use that document much more easier. So blockchain, it means what? It means digital assets are distributed instead of copied or transferred. The asset is decentralized, allowing full real-time access. And you have a transparent ledger of changes, preserving integrity of the document. It means safety. Just let me, share with you one of the video, the first one that I want to share with you. Just one moment.
Since the days of clay tablets, people have recorded the exchange of goods and services. As we evolve into the digital age, recording these transactions has become much more complex. Whether it's the exchange of money between two parties, documenting how goods move through a supply chain, or making contractual agreements. The growth of global commerce and trade has created a network of disparate ledger systems, vulnerable to errors, fraud, and misinterpretation. Take the diamond industry, for example. The journey of a diamond from mine to consumer covers a complex landscape of legal, regulatory, financial, manufacturing, and commercial practices. Current supply chains have to rely on intermediaries every step of the way, from government officials to lawyers, accountants, dealers, and banks. This adds time and cost. Diamond smuggling and fraud can hamper governments from collecting fair export taxes, and consumers and retailers face the prospect of purchasing counterfeit or unethically mined stones. This is where Hyperledger blockchain technology comes in. It has the potential to eliminate these vulnerabilities with transparent transactions. Blockchain offers all parties involved in a business network a secure and synchronized record of transactions. The blockchain ledger records every sequence of transactions from beginning to end, whether it's hundreds of steps in a supply chain or a single online payment. As each transaction occurs, it's put into a block. Each block is connected to the one before and after it. Groups of transactions are blocked together, and a fingerprint of each block is added to the next, thus creating an irreversible chain. That's why blockchain is ideal for recording the mining, refining, and distribution of one of the most valuable goods in the world. It can trace a diamond's path from the mine to the hands of the consumer with exceptional security and transparency. While blockchain works with all types of transactions, there are three key features that make Hyperledger blockchain uniquely capable to handle the requirements of a regulated industry like diamonds. It's distributed, it's permissioned, and it's secure. Because the ledger is distributed, it works as a shared form of record keeping, ensuring no one person or organization holds ownership of the system. As the diamond cycles through its supply chain, everyone involved during the process is permissioned to have a copy of every record and piece of data, and no transaction can be added to the chain without consensus across the participants. This means no one person can add to or alter the blockchain without being permanently recorded, making it tamper-resistant and highly secure, eliminating the risk of fraud and error. No one, not even a system administrator, can delete it. In the case of diamonds, a blockchain ledger keeps a record of high-resolution photos of each diamond at every touchpoint along its journey. It holds certificates of authenticity, real-time records of every payment transaction, as well as product details like cut, clarity, color, carat, and diamond serial numbers. At the end of the buying cycle, there is a complete, auditable, and indisputable record of information. Blockchain technology gives us the ability to transform industries of all sorts, from diamonds to flowers, monetary transactions, or even things like contracts, deeds, records, and other public and private agreements. It frees up capital flows, speeds processes, lowers transaction costs, and most importantly, provides security and trust. We believe that blockchain will do for business what the internet did for communication, create new ways of working and leave more time for creativity and innovation.
Okay, so I hope you have seen my the video. So I will continue. So the blockchain, just to tell you, even in the retail industry, of course, we are using the blockchain. Blockchain technology, we use it, for the checkout, for example, to accelerate the payment in our stores, online also. So this is a technology that you will have to you will use it, because I mean, this is with so much advantages that you will probably have to use the blockchain technology, and you already use it in your day-to-day life. Just I would like to make a very short transition also. Retail, now we can speak also about robots, and I want to share with you, this is why I'm quite short in my explanation, because I want to share also 2 videos with you about robots, which will give you a very interesting view about what is going on in terms of technology in retail, and I would say in lots of industry. So let me first share this video with you, and I will make some comment after that. It's about a robot which is used to, I would say, optimize the cost in some industry. Even in retail industry, we use it.
Flyability introduces Helios, the world's first collision-tolerant drone. Access confined and complex spaces without any risk of crashing. Helios features a full HD camera and a thermal camera embedded on the drone. The robot's live video feed allows the operator to get the drone to the most inaccessible places, up to 5 kilometers when in direct line of sight. Gather close-up images for high-resolution data with a sub-millimeter resolution. Onboard LED lighting system and a complete remote control of the camera settings allows to navigate and inspect even in pitch-dark environments. Changing the batteries only takes seconds. Just unplug the used one, insert another of the provided batteries, and you are back to flying again. Helios is safe to fly close and even in contact with humans. It avoids expensive, hazardous, and time-consuming access methods such as scaffolding, rope access, or sky climbers. It is incredibly easy to operate, and after only a few hours of training, you will be able to perform your first jobs. The payload head tilts over 180 degrees. Helios avoids human entry in confined spaces for visual inspection, highly reducing the risk for workers. It can be operated beyond line of sight, using the robust video feedback to navigate. Instead of focusing on avoiding obstacles, you can use obstacles to find your way and roll on the surfaces in addition to flying. Stored on an SD card onboard Helios, the data from the flight can be immediately reviewed and analyzed by your team and exported to include in your reports. At Flyability's offices in Switzerland, our team has been developing this patented device for the last 5 years, designing 7 prototype iterations, improved through extensive work on the field with industrial customers. Helios increases worker safety, reduces inspection costs, and helps reduce downtime. In the energy production industry, for the inspection of boilers, heat recovery steam generators, and other large structures. In the oil and gas and maritime industries, for the inspection of above-ground tanks, pressure vessels, as well as ship holds, ballasts, and voids. And in many other industries, for the inspection and exploration of indoors, inaccessible, confined, or complex spaces. Inspect and explore places that could previously not be reached. Push UAV boundaries.
So that was the first video that I wanted to share with you. I will continue. So the second video, you will see here, just if you can, when you will look at this that video, I would like just if you can, keep in mind who creates the value for home in that video. It was one of in subject in my previous MBA. Who creates value for home? That is one first question. What's implication for firms? Resources management of innovation. Does the company have resources? That's the second question. I will not, this is not a test, don't worry. I know that you have another test just after our webinar. So that's just for you to, to have this question in mind and just to think about it, that when you are looking at the video, on what are the implications of digital manufacturing on customer-centric digital innovation. If you can just keep that in mind when you are looking at the video, that would be great. Alors, it's a 9-minute video. And after that, this is the last video I wanted to share with you, but I really find this video really interesting. I hope you will enjoy also. So just let me share with you that video.
Some economists say the world is entering a second machine age. Artificial intelligence and other advancements enabling robots to do tasks that until now only human eyes, minds, and hands could handle. For this episode of Moving Upstream, we traveled through Asia to meet the next generation of industrial robots, where robots are making robots.
Well, they're making love, these robots. Keep making babies. Yes, right.
To see how they're changing manufacturing and whether they're sealing the fate of low-skilled workers. Every other year, Tokyo plays host to the world's largest robotics trade show, IREX. It's no coincidence the show is in Asia. Here, robots are being bought and sold in numbers unrivaled anywhere else in the world. These are the types of robots Professor Erik Brynjolfsson is keeping an eye on as MIT's chief scholar on the digital economy.
We used to have to really painstakingly teach the machines step by step, program them what to do. And now machine learning is enabling the machines to figure out on their own how to solve problems. You put together the algorithms, the data, and the computer chips, and you get sometimes a millionfold improvement in the performance of these systems.
A millionfold improvement.
Yeah.
And what does that allow you to do?
So one really important thing to do on the factory floor is just be able to recognize objects. And that's something that only humans could do well until recently.
At IREX, we witnessed a robot handling a task that I, as a human, don't do so well. Futzing with one of those pesky tape dispensers. It's among the latest offerings from Yaskawa, one of the world's largest manufacturers of industrial robots. Its main sellers are large industrial robots that do dangerous things like welding car parts. We visit one of Yaskawa's robot manufacturing facilities in the southern port city of Kitakyushu. Here, the public can try controlling and racing against AI-enhanced robot arms.
You're done.
We got to see where the robots are made.
The robots themselves, they're sealed off by these plastic barriers. The workers aren't allowed to be in there while they're in operation because they're making these very fast movements.
The head of the robotics division at Yaskawa, Masahiro Ogawa, seems most excited to talk about robots that don't need to be walled off from humans, that work alongside employees. In the industry, they're called cobots. The International Federation of Robots predicts in coming years, cobots will lead the robotics industry. That's partially with driving startups like China-based Elephant Robotics to get in the game.
Heated people, so you are just so work with people. Yeah, work with people. Yeah.
We asked their founder, Jin-Yi Song, how his cobot is different from traditional robot arms.
It moved not that quick,
and it is very light, so it can work with people. So this is the most important thing.
In addition to being safer, the collaboration proves to be more productive. A study conducted by MIT researchers found that human-machine groups were more efficient than teams fully comprised of one or the other. They also reduced human idle time by 85%. While traveling through Japan, we visited Huistenbosch, a Holland-themed amusement park. There we checked out its latest attraction, a robot restaurant.
How many okonomiyaki pancakes can the robot make in an hour?
今のロボットで焼ける枚数っていうのは1時間でだいたい5、6枚ぐらいだと思います。まだまだそんなに早くない。でも、それだけ丁寧に作ってますから。
My colleague Matt McDonald, after getting a robot mixed cocktail,
Kanpai.
tried the robot chef's signature dish.
よく日本ではどんどんこう少子高齢化で、特に若い人たちの人口がこれからどんどん減っていく、これがもう目に見えて迫っている状況ですから、じゃあいかに効率的にこのレストランのオペレーションができるのか、いかに少ない人手で。
It's gimmicky by design. Back at Yasukawa, Ogawa tells us most of the customers who come to him looking for new automation solutions come from China.
China market huge, and the growth ratio very high.
How high? Last year, Chinese demand for robots grew more than 20%. One reason for that is China's working population is aging. By 2060, the average Chinese citizen is projected to be 50 years old. To see the impact of industrial robots on manufacturing in China, we traveled to an area that's considered the electronics capital of the world, the Pearl River Delta region. Headquartered there is Rappu, China's largest keyboard and mice manufacturer. We asked the CEO why his company is making the move towards robotics.
Because in China have a rapid salary increase beginning from 2008. So we feel the little pressure from the labor side. So we decided to change a lot our manufacturing system to robot.
Wages for the average urban employee in China have more than doubled since 2008. Rappu, he says, in the past few years, used robotics to reduce its factory workforce from 2,500 people to now 1,000, and more automation is on the way.
So you're bringing more robots in.
Yeah, and they make even the logistics will use a robot.
You seem very happy about this.
Yeah, because it will make my company more competitive in the field.
And you're not worried when you lay off those 700 workers?
No, they can easily get jobs, no problem.
China's unemployment rate is 4.6%, pretty low. And the Chinese government says it's even lower in urban areas. Most of them are getting jobs. They're not having to go back to the farm.
They cannot go back. And right now,
go back?
No, but they can go back, but for them it's no meaning to go back because they will easily find another job because China is growing very fast.
When we talk to CEOs in China, do you think they're being forthright? Do you think they're being accurate?
Broadly, I think they are. I think that there are going to be lots and lots of jobs that are automated, millions, hundreds of millions of jobs that won't be needed because robots will do them. But there's no shortage of work that only humans can do.
Indeed, in China, the category of jobs that are growing fastest are in the service sector. Is there any resistance from workers to putting these new robots in?
No, because they have no choice.
Your plant that you oversee has already been automated 80%, you said. Do you see it going the rest of that 20%?
Li Zhandu, a worker at the Rappu factory, has watched as robots have replaced his colleagues.
How far off do you think we are from full automation?
我觉得应该3-5年应该可以吧。
Nobody left working in your department.
这个要根据公司来决定的。具体的话还是看公司层面。
Chinese delivery company JD is showing how automation is advancing in other industries like logistics. There are still some employees here, but not at a JD sorting center near Shanghai. it's taking nearly all humans out of this process. And this is the same company that last year began making drone deliveries.
This is a moment of choice and opportunity. It could be the best 10 years ahead of us that we've ever had in human history, or one of the worst, because we have more power than we've ever had before. Tools by themselves are not going to lift up the billions of people who are being left behind. Those are conscious choices we have to make as a society and as individuals.
In just 6 years, worldwide sales of industrial robots have risen more than 140%. What do you think about robots taking on more work? I look forward to reading your comments. Thanks for watching.
So I hope you enjoyed the video. For me, it's really interesting. I guess if you have any question, any topics you want to share with us, with all your colleagues, students, and we can discuss with our Q&A session just in a few moments. But for me, it's really interesting in the sense that it's about technology, because even the retail industry you have seen in the video, you have also some retail business that will use a lot of robotic also, and it's true also, I would say, in our retail business, and it's true also in India. I mean, you will have I come from I work in France, I work in Romania, and for example, the checkout, we are also now using some automatic checkout, so that the customers, they don't have to they don't interact necessarily, I would say, with human. And you have a lot of replenishment. In a way, it's automatic also in lots of stores. The online order, everything is going to be transformed in a way with digitalization, technology, and robotics. So, but that's not something necessarily wrong, I would say. We can discuss about that, because you can interpret that also from a philosophical point of view. So, but I will be open to all your questions, and we can discuss. There is no issue. It will be a pleasure. So just let me share with you some more aspects that I wanted to share with you. First, let me share with you, because I know that in that COVID period, and I know that as a student you are working a lot. I want to share with you 3 books that I love. I like a lot. That's the first one is Start with Why from Simon Sinek. So it's a very, very good book. If you want to take some time for you to breathe a little and to relax. That's really interesting, a very good book. The second one is from Simon Sinek also. I don't have any action. It doesn't give me any money. Don't worry about that. That's not, but I like this author. The name of the book is The Infinite Game, which is about, management, technology also. It's also a philosophical book. So really interesting. And the last one is a different author, Daniel Goleman, who is also very known, bestseller author, I would say. Working with, or you have two books in one. The first part is Emotional Intelligence, and the second one is Working with Emotional Intelligence. So the first part is a little bit more theoretical, and the second one is really asks how you can work with your team in a different way. What I was sharing with you with the millennium generation, how you can adapt to the new needs of the millennium generation. And that's really a very good book. I really recommend that 3 books. If you have some time, you will really enjoy, honestly. Some quote I wanted to share with you also about leadership and technology. The first one is from Peter Drucker. Organizations rarely decline because the world changes. Organizations decline because they don't change. The second one is this one. Over the next decade, artificial intelligence won't replace managers, but managers who use artificial intelligence will replace those who don't. One more about technology and leadership. The future belongs to those individuals, leaders, business units, societies, countries that optimize the man-machine duality. You know, it's visible in one part of the video I shared just before with you. When you have just humans working alone, I would say, without machine, or machine working alone without humans, this is not the best combination. The best combination is this duality between human and machines. So this is all for me. I am on so Domnawad. I don't know if my pronunciation is correct. I will stop sharing now my screen so that we can yeah, that's the end. So Domnawad, thank you so much. Shukriya, maybe in a different way. If you have any question, it will be a pleasure for me to answer and at least to discuss with you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. We have a question from the audience. Amrita Suresh is asking you,
please.
Sir, can centralized databases offer similar functionality like that of blockchain technology?
Yes. I think there is some similarities. So my answer here would be yes, of course. After that, I don't know if one of the advantage, of the blockchain technology is that, you can use it in a lots of domain. I don't know if this is true for the other one. Maybe yes. Here I will not say yes or not. I guess this is on. I would say yes. I would say yes. This is my answer.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have a question from my side. Sir, how do you see the future of blockchain technology in India?
From my view, this is a good question also. From my view, India is a fast-growing country. I mean, this is clear. India is one of the top moving country in terms of when you see all over the world, and it's true also in the US, of course, it's true in France, it's true all over the world. You have the best engineers, they are Indian people, and you can find these engineers like maybe you tomorrow all over the world. So yes, of course, India will use blockchain technology and use it as of now already in a part. So yeah, but it will accelerate. I agree with you. It will accelerate a lot in the coming years in a lots of domains. On the retail would be one of that specific industry.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question from Srishti Gandhi. What, according to you, sir, are the most important qualities that should be adopted by us as budding managers with respect to digitalization of business and world at large?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Very good question. So one of a part of the answer, I think it's, as managers, you are the generation millennium. You are part of the generation, what I was sharing with you just before, very curious, very smart generation, So this is, an asset for you. You are with this strength with you because of your education, because of your curiosity. This is very good. I think at the same time, it's good to remain, there is, it's good to remain with that curiosity all your professional life, and after that also. I mean, remain curious. And if you think at a time that you need to make another, learning in a specific area, it could be technology, it could be something else, I will encourage you to do that. I mean, that's very important. That's the first part of my answer. On the second part of my answer, so the first part is remain curious and be open to reactualize your knowledge. That's the first part of my answer. And the second part is, even if you have that knowledge, I would say, it's one of the documents I share with you, this emotional intelligence. You can be the best technological engineer of the world, the best engineer, I would say, technically speaking. I would say, you have this smart, capacity, I would say mathematical scientist capacity to understand very quickly. But that's not enough, unfortunately. That is not enough. You have also to be emotional intelligent. And that is something you learn, I think, by knowing you better. And that's a day-to-day learning, Day-to-day, if you can be aware, what are your strengths? What are your eventual defects, so that you remain always, aware about that, and, you can work on that also. I hope that's, answering your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Sir, we have another question. Sir, what do you think how companies shall tackle situations in COVID rather than losing employees? What are the major lessons that we can take away from the current situation?
Yeah, that's a very good question also. I think that the first thing, I think, most of the time, in my mind at least, we have, sometimes we say, oh no, that I will do that tomorrow. Because, you postpone the issue, or you postpone, the technical, issues that you can, face. But, this COVID-19, it has also, I will not say it's positive, because from a human perspective, this is not at all positive. We have lots of people who die, every day all over the world. Don't, you can't say that. But, at least if you want to see the positive side of that, pandemic, I would say that first, it demonstrates that, when you want to tackle an issue, you can do that. And, for example, this digital transformation, we accelerate what we are doing together today. That's a part of the answer. Maybe we will not, I will not be with you, and I'm lucky to be with you, discussing, learning also from you. If I was not with, we will not with that COVID-19, because in a way that's accelerating the communication. The second aspect, I was thinking from an environmental point of view. The COVID-19, it has done also some very positive, things. A lot of area, location all over the world that were, even I would say, if you allow me, even in India, the rate of pollution in Delhi, for example, and I am speaking for you also, for all the your family, for you as human beings, it's good to breathe, some I would say a good air, and maybe in a way, maybe the message is, should we wait to have a pandemic to take some decision by ourselves? This is maybe, one of the takeaway we can take also from this kind of pandemic, And sometimes I think we postpone, but we should also think, what can we do by ourselves,
Thank you, sir. Sir Mohan has a question for you. How is Dalmia Cements moving ahead with blockchain and artificial intelligence?
Dalmia Cements, yeah?
Yes.
Dalmia Cements, I would say, is moving very well with blockchain on artificial intelligence. When I was sharing with you this, orientation, technological orientation from Punit Dalmia, which is the managing director of Dalmia Bharat Group, it's true. I mean, also in the cement industry, Punit Dalmia Ji is someone who is very oriented. He wants to accelerate. He wants to go faster. He wants to, make the customer orientation more digital oriented. Even in the cement industry, on the transport also, how to compete with, maybe better, delivery for our customers digitally also. And I would say that. He has a very broad thinking. Maybe you know that Dalmia Foundation. Maybe you know Dalmia Foundation. So it's one of the industry which is part of Dalmia Bharat. This is not an industry; it's a foundation, but is really accelerating also on its link with Dalmia Cement. How can we, recruit also the good profile all over India, for the plants, in all the locations. So he is part also of that meaning of, he is really human-oriented. To answer your question more accurately, Dalmia Cement industry has done, even in that pandemic situation, the best result in the last period. So, it's just amazing. With all the measures that we have taken in terms of optimization, of cost, but also, how can we work in a safe, environment with mask, of course, with social distancing measures. We get some very great results. I mean, that's the best result from Dalmia Cement for, the last, 5 years. I mean, this is just amazing.
Thank you, sir. Arpana Sharon has a question for you. In which area of the industry development of robotics is currently or will be mostly dynamic?
Yeah, in robotics, I think that in robotics, I think that you have one of the aspects is all the payments modes. It means we have a lots of meeting now when we are opening this new business, retail business, building material in India. There is a lot of new payments modes, with PayU, all the online payments. I think that the robotics, because it's also robotics in a way, will be very important in that specific environment, the payment modes, because everyone wants to be to pay quickly now, to save sometimes. So this is something very important. I think also the robotics, in terms of I would say all the supply chain. I'm not saying the delivery only, but I would say the supply chain. You remember one of the video was about the organization of the foods, in the warehouse. How we can accelerate, the transport of the. This is robotics. I mean, in the supply chain industry, you will have, I would say, a revolution in terms of robotics, for sure.
Thank you, sir. Amruta Suresh has a question here. When blockchain technologies are playing a significant role in today's world, do we need robots for the future?
That's a very good question. One more good question from the students of Hyderabad.
She's Amruta Suresh.
Yeah, I would say, I think we will need robots for the future. I mean, this is my personal answer here. This is not, I will not say that this is a common view, but I think that, robots, we will need robots for the future. But I am like this professor from MIT, that we have seen in the video. He says that, we will always need human to, to make and to structure the work of the robots also. And you have seen that the best combination is not when you have only robots. So we will need robots, that's for sure, because this is the way you have seen. This is very interesting in Tokyo, in China. This is the trend. I mean, lots of industry are moving to the robots industry, etc. But at the same time, they are structuring these trends with some very good profile in terms, of human, manager, leadership, who are able to structure the robots. So yes, we will need robots, and yes, we will need also a human to structure and to lead the robots.
Thank you, sir. Last question for the day. Can the blockchain technology be used outside cryptocurrency field?
Yes, I think so. I share in my, in my video one example with Google Doc with this, Drive, when we can work on that one. I guess that what you are doing also maybe when you are working in some documents all together in some small groups. It's a technology which is used also, I share with you, in the payment methods. It's also used in all the, I would give you another example. From my previous company, we use also blockchain technology in the online communication, because it allows you to accelerate the way to share the documents. For example, in a safe way. For example, in some sites, online sites, you have to share, I will just give you one example. If you want to share one bathroom with sanitary ware, some color and etc., it's a lot of photography. You need a lot of documents, a lot of color, etc. And for that, you need to upload in the site a lot of documents, photography, name of the product, some, data about the product. The blockchain technology is present here and allows you to make some presentation in a much more comfortable way for the customer, and to accelerate also the way you can click and observe the bathroom, for example, in 3D dimension, for example. That's another example. So yes, blockchain will be used in a lots of different industry, I would say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking all the questions. And this is the time to thank you. Sir, I would like to thank you on behalf of Managers Without Borders Student Chapter, IBS Hyderabad, for giving your valuable time and knowledge that you shared with us. This time that is spent with you will remain in our calendars as the best time that is spent for gaining knowledge. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And sir, we would like to present to you a token of appreciation on behalf of MWB. Varun, I would like to please present it to sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We will send it through mail, sir.
Thank you so much. Let me just thank you all the students. It was a very, it was a pleasure for me to spend this time with you. So I would say Dhanyavad, Shukriya to all the students of IBS Hyderabad. Thank you for your valuable and smart questions on the time we spent together. It was a pleasure and honor for me. So thank you to all of you. Thank you also, Kriti, one more time for the support she gave me for the preparation and the invitation also for this webinar. Thank you so much. I wish you the best success in your study, success in your test now, because I know that you are in a test now. Take care of you and stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all
Thank
this.
you so much, sir. Thank you for such an wonderful session,
Thank you
sir.
so much, sir. It was really nice hearing
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, on the same note, I would also like to thank Madhavi ma'am for supporting us and giving us this opportunity today, without whose help this might not have been possible. I would also like to thank Newswire, our coverage partner, IBS Messenger, our promotion partner, and all the members and audience from all different clubs, societies, and cells representing the club culture of IBS Hyderabad. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you. And I would like all members of MWB to please stay back.
Sir, we hope to see you someday in campus and for some similar sessions in future.
I would like to do so. If I have the occasion to come in your campus and to spend some time with you, it will be a great pleasure for me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Take care.
And also, thank you that you actually, thought about the college, you gained knowledge of a college, and then you came and shared knowledge with us. Thank you so much for that, sir. You came, yes, sir. Thank you.
Actually, our juniors also don't know that how our college looks like, sir. To be frank,
Yes, sir.
because they haven't been in our college.
Yes, sir. Because of this COVID situation, it was so difficult that nobody of us were allowed into the college from the past some 6 or 7 months. And with you, they came to know, our college looks like this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care and stay safe. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
sir.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Juniors, you can leave, and the seniors of LWB, please stay back.
Yes, all the juniors who have exam can leave, and all the best for your exam. All the seniors.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are leaving.
Thank you, sir.